I used to think about immature things. Like, do you love me? Do you want me? Are you gonna call me like you said you would? Is this really your real phone number? But I'm a man now, baby, a grown man. And I come a long way. And experience taught me one thing. Taught me to hold on to my love. That is the intro of one of the best songs of all time. Let's talk about the Bobby DeBarge story. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to KRS TV. This is your boy Kenny, and this is my review for the Bobby DeBarge story that appeared on Saturday, June 29th. Sorry that this review was late. I was actually at Shanice's concert at the Howard Theater, but I saw this movie and I was deeply moved by it. I think they told the story very well. They definitely condensed it a lot because the DeBarge story is a very big story, and so much has taken place with this family. It's a family of 10 children. They all are musically talented, but yet they were also deeply troubled and traumatized at the same time. And Bobby DeBarge, I would have to say, was the most talented out of the family, and he paved the way for DeBarge and also Chico DeBarge to have careers as well. And pretty much it tells the story of Bobby DeBarge, how much of a troubled man he was, even though he was a phenomenal talent, a well-rounded, artist and musician, but he was definitely troubled due to his traumatic childhood. And for those who watched the DeBarge episode on Unsung, as well as the episode on Switch, you definitely know how gruesome that their childhood. You actually know how devastating their childhood was. And one thing I can honestly say, is that hurt people hurt people. And when it comes down to Robert DeBarge Sr., the father, he had lost a lot of jobs and had trouble providing for his family due to the fact that he was married to a black woman and he had all these children to feed. And I think dealing with the pressures of those times in the 1960s and 70s, he took that anger and aggression on his family, and it turned him into a very vicious and evil man. And definitely they also went into the mother Ederline, and how she was such a God-fearing woman, but yet was repeatedly abused by her husband. And as many times she tried to make attempts to get away from him, she always ended up coming back. And for those who follow the story, Ederline was in her teens when she married Robert, so she really didn't have a skill set. She only knew how to be a mother and a housewife. And when she tried to break away, she didn't have the skills to really support her family on her own, so it always led her back. And not only did she receive a lot of abuse, but the eldest 5 children received the worst abuse. One being Bunny, who was physically as well as sexually abused. The same thing with Bobby. And they showed in the movie where he would make Bobby wear a dress and tell him, like, yeah, keep that dress on, like the sissy that you are. I was deeply, like, my heart dropped when I saw that. I was like, wow. And it explains why, Bobby DeBarge had issues with his sexuality, because he was bisexual, but he was always conflicted because of the sexual abuse that he received. And the other ones were, Tommy, who was a part of Switch. He received a lot of the abuse, and also Mark and Randy. And also in the movie, they really show the strained relationship between Bobby DeBarge and his brother James DeBarge. We all know James DeBarge was the one who married Janet in like the mid '80s, and we saw how strained their relationship was, because James was, the father's favorite, whereas Bobby always got the negative and the brutality from the father, James got a lot of attention, got a lot of love, and Bobby in turn abused James, due to his jealousy and due to his anger, because he wanted to be loved as well. And he hated the fact that the father was so mean to him, but was so loving to James. So he in turn abused James in the very same way that the father abused him. And we saw in the movie how even though we saw that Bobby did love his brother, but because of the post-traumatic stress of what took place in their childhood, it literally created a lot of tension and a lot of distance between the brothers, which is unfortunate. And we also saw in the movie, like when Bobby, after he was a part of Switch, and also shout out to the cast and crew. I think they really did a good job. Now personally, I didn't think those wigs was working. I mean especially the one that Bobby had. But shout out to Rashawn Fagan. I'm definitely a big fan. I loved him on Greenleaf. And also, I loved him on Dancing with the Stars as well. He's a phenomenal talent. I'm also a fan of his father, Roy Fagan, as well. So, it was great to see him in this role as Bobby DeBarge, and I think they cast the right person because he's such a talented guy. He's also a multi-musician, just like Bobby DeBarge. And he really brought out the essence of Bobby in this movie, and I really think that he really nailed the role. And, he really gave a commanding performance. So I definitely hope that this movie gets some award nominations. And also another person that really stuck out to me was Tyra Farrell, who played Ederline. Tyra Farrell is a legendary actress. Y'all remember her from movies Do the Right Thing. She was also in Boys in the Hood. She played the mother of Doughboy and Ricky. She not too long ago was a few seasons ago she was on Empire. So I was happy that they got her to play that role because she was phenomenal. She did a great job playing Ederline, and Ederline was a God-fearing woman, but there were, even though she was being abused by Robert, there were moments she did stand up to him, in defense of her children, especially when she found out that he was sexually abusing Bunny. She literally went off, and even though he slapped her, she was all about her children. And one scene that really stuck out with me in this movie was when the kids were fighting with each other, and she was saying that the problem is you guys are like this, you all are separate and you're constantly going back and forth with each other, but you need to become a fist, because when you're a fist, you're powerful and you're together. And that's what this family has to be. We have to be a fist. And we see that throughout their lives. That's exactly, the lesson that stuck with them. And we definitely saw, how things began to unravel with the group Switch, because, due to Bobby's drug habit and due to the fact you had people in his ear, because Bobby had a phenomenal talent. His falsetto was like no other. He paved the way for Elle, and even Elle DeBarge would say that, I'm nowhere near as talented as Bobby was. If anything, Bobby taught me. And the thing is, we saw how, Bobby was, battling, his issues with drugs and alcohol, and it was because he was trying to drown out those demons. But we actually saw that he did have a good heart, and that he was very passionate, not only about music, but about people. He really was. They showed his relationship with Janet Jackson and how that unraveled due to his drug abuse, and also his close relationship to Jermaine Jackson, because it was Jermaine Jackson that got Switch put on, because a few of the members met him in an elevator while he was on the elevator with his wife Hazel Gordy at the time, and they gave him a demo tape, and he gave the demo tape to Berry Gordy, and Berry Gordy wanted to showcase, and they sent Bobby out because, at the time Bobby was battling drugs, so they were kind of on the edge whether to bring Bobby back. But Bobby wanted the opportunity, so he got himself clean. He was clean and sober, and things were great. But then, once the fame and the notoriety came in, all of that changed, and Bobby began to become erratic. His ego was shot to the roof, and it got to the point where it just dismantled the band. And the funny thing about it, Switch initially didn't break up, it just dissolved and dismantled. And also shout out to Lloyd, he did a great job playing Gregory Williams. Gregory Williams was pretty much a childhood friend of Bobby, and he was also the creator of Switch. He was the manager and kind of like the father figure for all of them. And he said at one point Bobby would listen to him and would take his advice, but then it got to the point where he was just combative with him, and then would pretty much say that, I'm really was what making this group hot, and without me y'all would be nothing. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, it just got to the point where their friendship literally, strained due to Bobby's behavior. But and then also, they talk about how he brought in, his family, which became the DeBarge. I'm a big fan of DeBarge's music, as well as Switch. And we saw how he brought them into Motown, and, they went in and did a showcase for Berry Gordy, and he said he was going to make them stars. And then they became, big in their own right. But then after Bobby and Tommy left Switch, they were hoping that they would be able to join DeBarge, but due to contractual obligations, they weren't allowed to join the group. And but they did give Bobby an opportunity to be a solo artist, which due to his drug use he never got any work done, and he eventually dropped him, which led him to a life of crime and doing drug smuggling, which eventually he got caught and ended up serving 5 years in prison. And while he was in prison, he contracted HIV, which later became AIDS. And we saw that, how, and I have to say how Rashawn Fagan really did a great job, playing that scene while he was in prison. But we see that while he was in prison, he was dedicated to, still doing music. He was dedicated to get back to his wife Terry and his 2 boys. And when he got out of prison, we saw that that was his main goal, was to work and get back to doing what he loved, which was music. But unfortunately, AIDS took over his body, and eventually he died in 1995 at the age of 39. But rest in peace, Bobby DeBarge. You're a true legend. You've definitely been one of my inspirations, as well as many others who have followed behind you. I mean, he paved the way for some of the great male voices that we have seen since then. Especially with that falsetto. I mean, his falsetto was so effortless that it was just of the gods, and he really was one of a kind. And Bobby DeBarge will never be forgotten. And also shout out to the DeBarge family. We thank you for sharing this story, and we're definitely rooting for you guys. For the ones who are still struggling, we're definitely in your corner. And we definitely know that dealing with that type of trauma, it's not easy to get over. I mean, you can kind of sweep it under the rug, but eventually it rears his head. And I think that's what led Bobby down the destructive path, because I think he wanted to love himself, but he struggled so badly. But then he didn't want to die. He wanted to live. He wanted to be there for his family, for his children. But unfortunately, due to his illness, it took him out at an early age. But he's definitely legendary. And I'm definitely honored to do this review because I'm a huge fan of Switch, Bobby DeBarge, Chico, and I have to say every actor in this movie, even the guy that played James, who was his first film, he did a phenomenal job playing James. And I really shout out this whole cast and crew, as well as the director. You guys did an awesome piece of work, and you really did the family justice. Also, Bunny DeBarge has her autobiography out. I think it's called the Kept Ones. I'm actually going to have the link in the description box where you can go to Amazon and purchase her book, where she gives her take on the family. And Bunny's the eldest out of 10 kids, so Bunny definitely gives you the real. And she's also commented on my review of Switch, and she even told me then there's a lot more to the story than they revealed, and I pretty much said I know, because it's in an hour span of time, so they had to condense it because so much went down and so many things that took place that you can't get all of that in an hour episode. But definitely check out Bunny DeBarge's book. Definitely support her. She's clean and sober. She looks beautiful, and she's got her eye on the prize, and she's got God on her side. So that's what I have, y'all. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments, or if you got some ideas or thoughts of the movie, definitely get down in those comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow me on all of my social platforms. I have them all listed in the description box. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, and I definitely wish all the best to all the DeBarge family, even the new DeBarges that are out here doing music. Keep grinding, keep winning, and definitely, this the DeBarge family is a musical dynasty, and we will always love them. So until next time, everybody, take care.